You're now in the studio with BTFU.
Welcome back to BTFU Racing, and I don't know if you know this, but horse racing is one of the only sports, or is the only sport, along with equestrian, where males and females perform on a completely level platform. There's no concessions given for females in racing, and their physical and mental attributes are predominantly the reasons why they succeed. And rightly so, but not so in many other sports. And I reckon that's something that racing should be very proud of and maybe just promote a bit more, because there's so many detractors. But our guest today is a young lady who came to Sydney about 10 years ago, fell in love with the place and formed a plan to come back and become an apprentice jockey. She linked up with Gai Waterhouse and changed Gai Waterhouse's mind, which doesn't happen very often. And she became a Champion Apprentice maybe a year or two later. And she's one of the first jockeys that trainers and owners look to book when they're looking for a rider for their horses in the metro. And welcome, Rachel King.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice intro for you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That sounded pretty good.
Well, it's all true. None of it's false, is it?
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. No, it's true. It's true.
So you've been here 10 years, right, Rach?
Yeah.
When you first came out, tell us when you first came out. You came out as a track work rider.
Yeah, I just came for 3 months. It's kind of the normal, I guess, European kid coming out, come for 3 months and come for a working holiday. But I came to sort of just try and improve my riding, learn something different. The plan was meant to be to always go back to England to actually turn back to an apprentice. I'd been an apprentice. I'd sort of failed a bit, gone back to amateur, and I was coming to Australia to learn a bit more. I thought it'd be good to learn, to ride to the clock and things like that, and then go back to England and restart my apprenticeship back there. But once I got here, I stayed for 3 months and thought I'd give it a go here and see if I could make a go of it.
So that's a pretty good move.
It was, definitely.
I think loads of people come to Sydney for a short time and end up staying for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a thing of, especially being in England, like I didn't know anything about Australian racing. I didn't know anything about Sydney. I'd heard of the Melbourne Cup, and that was literally about it.
So why did you come? Why did you choose Australia for 3 months?
Well, to be honest, it was either between Australia and America. I had a really good friend that lived in Australia that had come from England, and I sort of rang her and said, "What do you think? Would it be a good place to learn?" And she said yes. So that's why I did it. I didn't know anything about it. It was just pure luck, really, that I ended up coming here. And yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea how the system worked here. The structure of the racing, even just little things like the country, provincial, city racing. I didn't know any of that, and I didn't know the opportunity that was here, especially, I think, for female riders.
You picked it up pretty quick.
I tried to.
So you rode on an amateur basis in England and then converted to an apprentice for a short period of time?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I started off, I was adamant I was going to be a jumps jockey.
Too small for a jumps jockey.
Way too small. My dad rode over jumps just as an amateur, but it's just what I was brought up around jumps racing. I used to think flat racing was just boring. I was like, why would you just go around in circles? It's rubbish, and I just didn't understand the buzz of it. But I'd never sat on a good flat horse. I'd only ridden slow jumpers, but my buzz was the jumping. That's what I thought was, the adrenaline rush, and I loved it, and I'd never change it because I think it taught me a lot, especially hitting the ground a few times.
Yeah.
So, but I did.
That teaches you to stay on?
Teaches you to stay on and tuck and roll and things like that. But yeah, it was an experience, and I really loved it. I did it for a few seasons, and I had really good fun, especially sort of doing as an amateur. I was lucky I got to ride nice horses. My dad trained a couple just for a bit of fun, so it was nice getting to ride for him as well.
Did you ride a winner for him?
I did. My first ever winner was for him, actually.
Oh, wow.
He's still got the horse at home, so it's nice. We've still got her. But emphasise the word tried to turn apprentice. I lasted 6 months. I rode one winner on the all-weather at Lingfield. I think it was 50-1, and that was about as close as I got, and it was just depressing.
Yeah, so, well, you got out of that depressing state and you came here, and it was anything but. Tell us about, so you came out, rode track work, but when you came out and decided you want to become an apprentice, you teamed up with, or hooked up with Gai Waterhouse.
Yes.
Tell me about, so she made you work in the stables for a while, and she told you some stuff that, because you're the competitive person you are, and I know that firsthand, that probably triggered something in you to want. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I first went there, she knew I'd come to ride and be an apprentice, knew what I wanted to do, but she also knew that I had been a sort of equivalent of like a racing manager in England, and I'd worked in an office. I used to do a bit of both, sort of ride work and then do acceptances and things like that in the office. So she, I think, needed someone else in the office and was quite keen to sort of push me that way. So
you're going to do 2 jobs for Gai.
she kept
They'll
trying
pay you
to
one salary.
trying to push me that way. Yeah.
Typical trainer, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Get their pound of flesh.
That's it. And even so much so that she just kept sending me away. For the first year I was here, I remember the first trip she sent me, she told me I was going to Brisbane. I had no idea where Brisbane was, like didn't have a clue. And I remember going to get on the float. She said, "Oh, you're just taking one horse and you can take a pony with you to keep the horse company." And I remember going to get on the float and I said to the guy, I was like, "So how long does it take to get there?" And he said, "Oh, like 2 days." I had no idea where we were going. She told me I was going for 2 weeks. I stayed for 3 months. I did the whole winter carnival for her. It was great, and it was an amazing experience, and we were lucky, had really nice horses up there for that year, like had huge success. So it was a really good experience, and it was a good way to probably learn a lot more about Australian racing. But all I wanted to do was get back and try and start riding. And then I was home. I think I was only home for about a month, if that. And then she sent me to America with a horse.
Oh wow!
She bought a horse from the Goffs London sale that they have during Royal Ascot. And he was actually trained in France, and he had an entry in the Belmont Derby, which was like 10 days after the sale or something like that. So she rang me one evening and said, "I need you to get on a plane tomorrow and fly to France."
Tomorrow?
Yeah, literally tomorrow. Fly to France, pick up a horse, take it to America, can run in the Belmont Derby, and then I think you have to take him back to England so he does his quarantine. A horse called Pornichet.
Oh, yeah.
So he came over. He did win I think he won a Doomman Cup.
He had a few tricks, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He was, but he was, again, it was a great experience. Like, it was cool. I flew to France, rocked up at this trainer's place. I don't even think they knew I was coming to take the horse. Typical. I don't think I had told them.
Yeah.
I turned up and said, "I'm taking that horse there." Got to fly on the big sort of cargo plane with the horse and do all of that stuff. Like, that was really cool, and ride work in Belmont. And then I took him back to England because he had to do quarantine there. She told me to have a week off, spend with my family, and then flew me back to Sydney. So then I was really determined when I got back just to try and start riding.
And you sat down with her and she said what?
She said...
You asked her you want to become an apprentice. I
had all my papers there, ready to go, ready to sign to start, because I needed to do some trials. I spoke to the stewards, I had to do some trials to show them, that I could ride. And yeah, she told me that there was no point in me trying to be an apprentice. She said I was too old and I'd never be any good. So I think that pushed me even more. So
you didn't get deflated by that?
No, it just made me want to do it even more.
Yeah.
And as you said before, I do have that kind of attitude.
Yep.
Look, I was lucky. Mark Newman was there at the time, and he was very much in my corner, sort of pushing me. And like, I never sort of took it personally, what Gai said, especially because, like, even more so knowing her now, like, I definitely wouldn't take it personally. She just was keen. She'd seen me do all the travelling. She knew I could do all the stuff in the office. She knew I had other things I could turn to, and I think she was keen for me to sort of go down that route. But luckily...
So I reckon you're about the first and only person that's made Gai do something that she doesn't want to do.
Well, she didn't actually... I don't think she actually signed my papers. I think I got Mark to sign them on her behalf.
So she's got an out.
I had to be a little bit sneaky.
Yeah.
Mark said, do you know what? We're just going to get you to the trials. And then if
she
really puts her foot down, we might have to think again. But he got it all done, took me into Racing New South Wales, had all the meeting with the stewards and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I turned up at the trials, and I think she was slightly shocked to see me at the trials on a couple of her horses. But I only had to do a couple of trials.
I bet you probably won on them too, because you win lots of trials.
You have to.
Yeah, you win lots of trials with Gai, don't you?
Yeah, you have to, definitely.
So fast forward then, you began race riding, and you rode your first winner at Tamworth.
Yep.
On Cannon Run.
Yep.
Did you drive to Tamworth?
Yes.
That's a long way from Sydney.
It's such a long way.
So not quite as far as Brisbane.
No, not quite as far as Brisbane, but it felt like...
But you're doing it in one day, there and back.
5 hours, I think it was.
Yeah. And you became Champion Apprentice in 2017-18, and you rode 54 winners. Tell us about the journey, and you went from being riding your first winner in the country in Tamworth to becoming a regular jockey in the metro area.
Yeah, it was.
So you became a metro jockey, regular jockey, as an apprentice as well.
Yes, yeah. So I had to stick by Gai's rules and ride out my full country claim, full provincial claim and full city claim.
Before I
could move to the next, each stage, I had to complete each stage wholly before I could move to the next one. And I did only have 2 kilos at each place, which country and provincial has probably helped me in a way, because I think trainers thought, well, she's got experience, she's already ridden winners, so I was given probably some better rides because of it. But coming to town, it was hard, sort of only having 2. But I even remember there was only one time where she let me slightly skip ahead, but it was only for a very split second. I think it was only maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 maximum provincial winners left to finish my claim. And I'd been riding a horse for Gerard Austin, actually, at the provincials, and I'd won a few on him, and he was going to a Canterbury Friday night meeting. And he kept saying, can you ask Gai if you can go and ride him? I'd love you to ride him. I'd won a couple on him, and he sort of had to take the next step. And I begged her for 2 weeks, I reckon. Anyway, she suddenly just said, okay, you can go.
So that's twice you've made her change her mind.
Yeah, I know,
against
we're getting
her
on a roll
principles.
here.
You've got it wrapped around your little finger.
I wouldn't go that far. Don't worry. This one, she shot me down pretty fast. So she let me go.
It won?
It won. I had 2 rides on the night. I got to ride in her time around Canterbury in a benchmark race.
So she ran an Everest?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd never sat on a horse of her calibre, and at the time we didn't know how good she was. So I gave her probably the worst ride you've ever seen. Of course, it still won, but I didn't know my way around Canterbury.
So 2 rides, 2 wins.
I had 2 rides, 2 wins on a Friday night. I went to work on the Saturday morning thinking I was, pretty good.
Yeah.
First thing Gai said to me was, "Well done. You're not going back to town again."
She just
that was
bang.
it. Boom, straight back down. So it was sort of like I went from up here straight back down. But as soon as I'd finished my provincial claim, then I was, free rein. Well, free rein to a degree. I was always, the whole way through my apprenticeship, I always had to get approval from Gai or Robbie about every single ride. Every ride I took.
Outside ride?
Every ride I took, yeah. They always had to be under a certain price in the market, like things like that. She's very, big on keeping strike rate up and things like that. But I mean, only helping me. At the time, I used to think, why can't I just ride, and ride everything? I didn't care what I was riding at the time.
So she actually made sure that the horses you were on were given obviously a chance in the market, and those horses were going to give you a chance to ride winners and make you look better.
Yeah, exactly. And now I look back on it, and everything she did has made me, the jockey I am today. There's no doubt about it. But at the time, there was, when you're young and you just want to go and you just want to get on with it. There was times when I was frustrated, but now, and when I see apprentices now, I think, God, like, I'm so lucky that I got to have my apprenticeship.
Because not everyone gets that help along, do they?
No, definitely not. And Gai's, everyone that's worked with her will say the same thing. She's the same, she looks after you in that way as rides, but she looks after you in every way of life. Like any problem you ever had, anything you ever needed, like, she'd be there. I remember one day she told me I looked tired and she sent me in to go and get my hair done and things like that. Like, she just, just like we always say she's like, to me, she's been like a mum, like having her in Australia.
A mum away from home.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't have any family here, so
not many people would think of Gai as a nurturing type of person.
But she is, definitely.
She comes across as someone who's the softest part of her is her teeth. She's really tough. But sounds like she's really, really in your corner when she takes a like.
Yeah.
She clearly likes you.
Yeah, and like I've managed, the fact that I've continued the, sort of connection as well since I've come out of my apprenticeship. I've never stopped riding for her, is, I think, proven that, we do get on really well, and she's definitely in my corner.
So you spoke about Mark Newman helping you when he was working under Gai. We've had Tommy Sherry in here, and he's told us how Mark Newman helped him as well. So Mark's obviously got something in him that he maybe has learnt from Gai. But you rode your first Group 1 winner for Mark.
Yes.
On an Arrowfield horse, which was, I remember when you rode the horse at that time. It was quite not a surprise, but a big leap of faith for a young trainer in Mark Newman. who had one of the biggest owners in the country, and he put you on this horse, and, well, you didn't disappoint. They obviously backed you, and the reason why, and you won in it.
Yeah.
That was a great thrill. So what's the difference between winning your first ever race, which is obviously a great thrill, and your first Group 1?
Oh, it's just different scale, like totally different. Like, and I mean, I guess the first ever race, it was slightly different, I guess, for me here because I had ridden winners sort of at home. My first winner was over jumps. It was a little bit different, and then first winner here. But then to get that Group 1 it was probably more a sense of relief than anything. I'd just come out of my apprenticeship. I had won the Sydney Premiership, but I knew from then on it was going to be harder than ever. Like, I was going to have to work harder than ever. It wasn't going to come as easily, it was going to be tough. So to get a Group 1 straight away in that next sort of spring that came along was just a big boost that I was doing the right thing and I could measure up, because when you've got the claim in town, you've always got that little bit of an advantage, but then to be thrown into the deep end. And
doing it on the level.
Yeah, doing it on a level with all the big boys, like it was, a relief and a sense of achievement, a big sense of achievement to know that, okay, I might be able to hold my spot here.
So we're talking about your spot in the jockey's room, in the jockey's ladder is obviously towards the top, which is admirable. But I want to find out from you, what's the environment like in the girls' room as opposed to the boys? Obviously, I've only been in the boys' jockey's room, and it gets a little bit heated at times if there's something happens in a race. But there's not that many girls there's you and Kathy mostly.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, Kathy O'Hara. So if you get knocked over or knocked down in a race, you really don't have access to the boys to like give them a piece of your mind if that's what you do. Do you go in there and whinge and bitch and moan and groan? Fuck, this bloke just knocked me over, he doesn't care.
Well, that's giving away our secrets, but no.
But you do.
Oh, we have a little bit of a bitch, yeah. Like, but I guess, well, definitely I can speak, I think, for Kathy and myself. If we want to say something, we'll come and tell you. Yeah. Like we'd quite happily either tell you when we're pulling up or go and actually say something. Like and I think Kathy's been there longer than me, but we sort of have got that spot, I guess, in the room where there can be that little bit of back and forth. And I would also expect the same the other way around. If one of the boys had a problem with me, I would fully expect them to come and say something.
Give you a rev.
I'd rather it be out in the open than be sort of behind your back kind of thing.
I found coming, obviously I'd ridden a lot more overseas or in general than you had before you came here. I found the jockey's room in Australia very quiet.
It's very sort of...
it's subdued.
Yes, that's probably the right word for it. Yeah, definitely.
Jocks here basically allow the stewards to do their arguing for them. Yeah. Because the stewards don't allow much at all to get away. If you do something wrong, you get knocked on the head. So the challenges you faced, obviously, when you arrived here with not having a license, getting Gai to admit to you, to letting you ride, were there other challenges you've had to get to where you are? Obviously, everyone has challenges, but obviously, being a young female apprentice coming into Sydney, which is one of the biggest and toughest places to ride, did you think that you had any challenges or unfair challenges that you had to jump over or to face?
Probably nothing really sort of obvious. I'm always one that I try and just I hate singling out the female to male sort of. I think it's so great, like you said earlier, that we are competing on a level term. So I feel like as long as I can keep being competitive, keep my game up, keep riding as well as possible. Why should I have any different, challenges to anyone else? There's obvious day-to-day things. And I guess for me, I get a lot of opportunities lightweight. So it's always that thing of when they do go up in the weight, sometimes things like that.
You get taken off.
I get taken off.
Do you think that's because you're not a heavyweight jockey, or do you think that's because you're female?
No, I think it's the heavyweight.
Yeah, because it happens to all lightweight jockeys that they lose rides as soon as they go up in the weights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of life. But I mean, it happens the other way around with the heavyweight jockeys. When they go down in the weights.
I'm glad to hear that you don't think it's because you're female and you're prejudiced that way. It does happen to everybody. Yeah. It's light and then they lose rides. Yeah. And when they go up.
Definitely.
It's a dangerous sport. Do you ever feel worried about those sorts of things?
No.
No. No one does.
No.
As far as everyone that I've met, no one ever thinks about it. Because, it's about the only sport where the ambulance follows you around just in case you need help.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question. Jockeys get 5% of prize money, okay? And whilst the prize money in Australia is really good, trainers get 10%. Do you think jockeys should be rewarded the same as trainers as a 10%?
It's interesting. Yeah, look, I guess
Because
I don't
jockeys
see
are
why
the only
not,
ones.
really.
Jockeys are the only ones that carry risk,
Yeah.
personal risk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
To
I get
injury.
like the other side of it. Like the trainers will say, "Oh, well, we're putting the work in every day." Well, as a jockey, you're still going in and doing the track work, doing the trials, and if every time you sit on a horse, it's yourself, it's a risk. Like it is a great risk, and it's we're self-employed. Like if we can't work, that's
We don't get paid to ride track work.
yeah, exactly. We do all that for free.
Trainers get paid to train the horse.
Yeah.
Trainers get paid when they sell a horse.
Yes.
Trainers get paid or clip the ticket when the horse goes to stud.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that a trainer can achieve through training than a jockey can through riding.
Yeah.
We can only ride for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
They can train till they're ready to retire at 80 or 90. I think Bart Cummings stopped training when he wasn't breathing anymore, when he passed away, the poor fellow. So interesting that jockeys don't get the same remunerated the same as trainers. I personally think, I'm not riding anymore, that jockeys should.
Yeah.
Why not? We carry a lot more risk than anybody else. So you've recently come back from the UK on holiday.
Yes.
You obviously took some time off.
Yep.
And you had a nice surprise when you went over there.
Yeah, I did. Had a bit of excitement the first day we were there, actually. Myself and my now fiance, Luke Hilton.
Congratulations.
Went for a holiday, and he proposed on the first day we got to England. So it was a nice way to celebrate it, actually, because we were there for 3 weeks and got to see all of my family and friends and things, and be able to sort of celebrate the whole time we were there.
So that was great. So you celebrate not only just your engagement, but obviously your success with obviously a new partner. And now that you come back, what are your goals? You obviously got the new season's about to start.
Yeah.
Any goals for the new season?
I'm always one sort of each season.
Do you set goals?
I don't really set like specific goals. I just want to see an improvement every year. That's my kind of task. And it's not necessarily just like numbers of winners. I like last season, my winners were probably down from the year before, but I had a lot more high profile winners and I rode in a lot better races and things like that. So like prize money was up. So for me, that's a moving forward. And that's what I want to sort of see each year, is just moving forward. I don't want to
improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether it's more winners, more prize money, better horses. I mean, that's always something that is a big sort of goal, is just trying to get on those better horses in the better races.
Have you got a favourite racetrack in Australia? Have you ridden everywhere?
Pretty much, yeah, most places. Yeah. I do really like Randwick. Yeah. I think it's hard not to like Randwick. I've probably had more success actually even at Rose Hill, but I think with more winners. But I do really like Randwick. And
the trainers you ride mostly for Bjorn Baker, Gai, Godolphin. So those are 3 pretty big stables that give you support. That gives you, and you ride light, so you can ride whatever comes. So I think in the Australian group racing, there's a lot of races that are handicapped. So it gives you a definite advantage because you can ride light, you don't have to waste, and you're obviously at the top of the tree. So that's why your services are in such demand. It's a definite help. Yeah, it does help, doesn't it? Yeah. Not having to waste. You don't have to waste at all. No. I've never sweated, never missed a meal. Like I can ride 49. I don't miss a meal now. I can see that. Oh, thanks, mate. It shows, does it? Even when I'm sitting down. I'm joking. So, okay, here's a good question for you. What advice would you give a young 16-year-old Rachel? Stop riding over jumps. No, I think just like keeping options open. Like I switched jobs a few times. I went from being an amateur jockey to apprentice to working in an office, like a racing office. I even worked at a stud for a while as a stud secretary. I was breaking in horses at a stud. Like I did all sorts of things, sort of tried everything before
finding what I actually really wanted to do. And I think there's no limit to what age you can start doing it. You know,
you've proven that.
I was told I was too old,
yeah.
but it was fine. And just, like broaden your horizons a bit and try and the travel as well. I think, you know, obviously it's worked out really well for me, but even the experience I had riding as an amateur in England, I, you know, got to travel around a lot of Europe and things and ride, and all those experiences all coming together, I think have definitely helped me for the future.
Yeah.
But definitely just, I probably panicked a little bit when I was younger, and even when I tried to turn apprentice in England, and, you know, I did it for 6 months, like I said, and didn't get anywhere. I just thought, oh, well, that's that out of the question. It's done. You know, I'm never gonna be any good. I'm never gonna be good enough to ride as a professional or as an apprentice, even on the flat. So I'm not gonna try again. And I'm glad I luckily did. But there was a time when I just thought, oh, well, that's obviously not for me.
Yeah, there's a common thread. There's a couple of people that we've interviewed that they've had the same thing told to them, that they're no good, or they won't be any good and they should give up. Okay, and they haven't listened to that.
Yeah.
And they've followed their dream and done. Tom Sherry was one, you one, and we had Joe Moreira in, and he was told the same thing.
Really?
As a young kid. So it just shows you, if you really want to back yourself and believe in yourself, there's no limit to what you can achieve, is there?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got to have that self-belief.
Yeah.
It's the biggest push. And, you know, even if you don't reach your original goal, if you've got to tweak it a little bit along the way,
yeah, that's right.
You know, you'll find something you do love, and something that you can make a success of. It's just about working hard and being dedicated to it.
Well, that's right. There's no substitute for hard work and dedication.
Exactly.
Well, along with all the many people who you've ridden for, and have enjoyed you riding their horses, I've enjoyed watching you ride from when you first came to where you are now. And it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and we all here at BTFU wish you all the very best for this coming season, and in your personal life, all the very best.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And well, that's Rachel King, and if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, like and share. That's Glyn from BTFU.